Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Radical Racing Challenge. We're here at the land of the rising sun, Suzuka. We were here only just a few days ago for the Rebels in those Formula 3 cars, but we're in some very different cars today. A car which has remained controversial throughout this season, but we're here nonetheless. And it's me, Aaron Smith, your lead commentator as always. And joining me today is Giancarlo Scula in the production booth as well with Mark Tranter. And Giancarlo, you're new to these cars, and I don't know if you have too much experience with the SR10s, but do you have any expectations for this round, or are you just going in head first?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the draft here, plays a bit of a role and keeps these cars together. I know there's been a lot of complaints amongst the community, talking about the way this car handles and its characteristics, but hopefully the long straights here will provide for some pretty good racing along with the exciting essence that this track has to offer.
Yeah, that slipstream in this car always proving powerful, I think, as well. When we went to Spa last season for round one, that race was fairly chaotic. And speaking of chaotic, there's Blanco trying to drift it through Spoon. That's not going to be the quickest line through there, and he's absolutely cooked those tyres. So unless he can cool them down very quickly, I doubt he's going to be setting a quick lap anytime soon. But we've got qualifying here. We've got about 4 minutes to go in this session, and we know Philip Van den Hoek is one of the quickest drivers in this car. Even through the struggles, trials and tribulations that this car's gone through this season, he's still managed to put in some good results, although saying that recent form has not really been on his side. He's made a fair few mistakes, VAR being one of them, as well as last week. He has made a fair few mistakes in this car recently. I don't know if that's because of pressure or maybe just struggling with the car as a whole, but didn't even manage to set the fastest time. He was 800ths off of Frederick in first place, but still has another lap to go. And, well, Giancarlo, I mean, you're a higher iRating than me. You know this better than most people out there. What's it take on a qualifying lap to put it on?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to qualifying, it's really important to eke out every single inch of the track that you can use without getting off track. I think many drivers, they start to tense up when it comes to qualifying, and they get scared, and that's when they usually, tend to make mistakes. So I think the important part is just remain calm, remain cool, drive a lap just like you would any other lap, and I think that's the key to success here.
Yeah, it's kind of, you just gotta not push it too hard. It kind of depends on the situation. I mean, if you're just doing an official I mean, most of the time you kind of just want to slot it somewhere decent. It's not too big a deal if you don't get pole in an official race. If you're doing a league or something, then maybe it's a bit more important. But these officials, we know how chaotic they are, and someone's bound to go off anyway. So you just want to take it easy, as Friedrich there, not taking it easy enough on the exit of Spoon, gets it all wrong, and he will not be able to complete another lap. So everyone behind him then has got a little bit more pressure, as they've only got this lap to go. We ride with Philip Spencer, who's got some decent pace this week at Suzuka, it seems, as he rounds the final chicane now. Can he get a good exit? He can. Get that pole position though. He comes now to the line, the number 7. What's the time going to be? Is it good enough for pole? It is just about by 2/10, but he's got some drivers behind him who need to finish their lap. We have, of course, Philip van den Hoek, who, like we said before, is extremely quick in this car. But will it be quick enough? And no, it's not. I believe he actually got an off track on that lap. So it's not going to be the Dutchman's way this time round, as no one else seems to be setting quick enough times to challenge Spencer. Everyone else in the top 5 has come into the pits, and what do I say, Giancarlo? It's looking good for Spencer right now.
Yeah, it really is. I'll be surprised if anyone can leapfrog him before the end of the session, as you know he's 2 tenths up on the field at the moment. But being the 7 car, a bit of a surprise to me myself. I think Rafael Blanco will definitely look to make his way up through the field tonight. But a lot of higher rated guys, as Felix right there goes P2, he'll be about 2 tenths down from Philip. As I was saying, a lot of high rating guys starting from the back of the field to the mid pack tonight, so it'll be interesting to see how this race plays out. It is good to see though, you know, throughout the entire top 9-8 cars within a second here, so hopefully this makes for some pretty good racing here tonight.
Yeah, and like we were saying at this track a few days ago in those Formula 3 cars, this is one of the most technical and skilled racing tracks on the entire, I'd say the entire world actually, as Cuesta goes 3rd. That's a decent time from Mario, the number 5. We're seeing a bit of some comebacks for these lower iRacing drivers, which is always fun to see, but that's not the line at all, is it, Hinkson? The number 15 there going off at the S's, but I'm pretty sure he already finished his lap anyway. But yeah, like I was going to say, Suzuka's one of probably the most challenging tracks in the world in terms of putting it all together. Qualifying is probably the hardest thing to do around here. During the race, you can ease off a little bit, but it's a very challenging track and very punishing if you get it wrong. But one man who didn't get it wrong at all is Philip Spencer. He's on pole. I believe this is his first pole of the season, so good on the Brit for doing that. Felix Simoes will be happy with a P2. Mario Cuesta in P3. Andres Frejek in 4th. Philip van den Hoek in 5th place. Janas Kiss in 6th place. Rafael Blanco in 7th. He's definitely, as Giancarlo said, is going to want to make his way through the field as quickly as possible. Mariani in 8th, Paki Caruso in 9th, Rafael Oliveira in 10th, and then your last few drivers who really didn't set that too much of a competitive time. Javier in 11th, Todd in 12th place, Victor Cueto in 13th, David Jordan, who we know is extremely quick, he just could not get it together during qualifying, in 14th, Chris Elson in 15th, and Hinkinson in 16th. And that's all of your drivers we've got today. A fairly short grid, not too many sign-ups this week. Not had too many sign-ups in recent weeks, but that hasn't taken away from some of the good racing that we've had this season. As we just wait for some of the drivers to grid up, we've only got 3 to go: Cuesta, Blanco, and Brandt. And there's Cuesta and Blanco, just waiting for Todd, down in 12th now. He might even be starting from the pits. If you're that far down, it's not too far of a shot actually to start from the pits here, as we've experienced a few times. Attrition in this series is absolutely everything. Just keep it on the track and you'll be fine. But everyone is now lined up on the grid as we wait for those 5 iconic lights to go out. As we wait, there's someone trying to jump the start there, and it's a lights out and away we go. It's a fairly poor start from the 14. Absolutely no traction off of the grid. And we've already got 2 separate battles going on for the top 10, I'd say. And then the sort of bottom half as we go into turn 1. It looks all clean so far. Blanco's trying to gain a place as well. He got a fairly good start as we head now into the S's. Blanco is going side by side with Simoes. Simoes had an absolutely horrible start, but Blanco getting pushed off the track there and has lost another place to Caruso and possibly might be under pressure from Iani, is look at all the battling and squabbling going on for the top 10 places. But there's Oliveira getting very, very close, but just manages to pip Yanakis for 9th place. But Caruso getting a good start. He's up to 6th. But Samoa's Giancarlo, absolutely horrible start for the Portuguese driver.
Yeah, I'm surprised by it. I'm not sure what happened there. If he was just caught out by the drivers behind him or what the case may be. But Spencer got out to a great start there. He's already 7/10 cleared the field there. So he's doing great as Packy Caruso goes off the track through the hairpin. He'll end up at the back of the field there. But yeah, like you said, not sure what happened if Samoa's there, but a terrible start from him. Other than that, though, a clean start throughout the field, which is always great to see. We have Spencer leading the pack, Mario Cuesta, P2, and Philip Vanderhoek in P3 currently up 2 spots from the start of this race.
Yeah, it's sort of a mixed bag for starts. You either got a really good start or you got a really bad start. No one has really managed to get a decent start apart from Frederick, who stayed where he is, but everyone else is in the wars, you could say, as Rafa Oliveira might have a look up the inside into 130. Oh, not quite, but he's definitely going to want to look into this last chicane. Is he going to go for a send? Oh, he went for too much of a send, and actually it was the car behind that ran into the back of him. We got chaos at this final corner. That's about 3 or 4 cars that went off there. That was absolutely huge, but everyone up ahead absolutely oblivious to what's going on. Here's Blanco, and Samoa's still going at it, but Blanco just didn't have the speed to go for a send, and Samoa's is safe for now. But yeah, after Samoa's looks pretty good in qualifying, he's looking off the pace right now. He's not keeping up with the cars ahead at all. They are pulling away. Spencer's having a grand little time in first place. Cuesta is just about hanging on to that slipstream, but I imagine he's going to fall into the hands of Philip behind.
Yeah, I don't think Felix Samoa has got his tires turned on as quickly as the other drivers. You know, that's a big part of these standing starts. There's no time to get your tires warm, so you know, going into turn 1, that's your first chance to see how the car feels. And I just don't think he was ready for the cold tires, to be honest. But our biggest gainer so far is Mark Anthony Hickson, currently up 6 spots. He's up to P10, starting P16 on the grid. Unfortunately, we have Victor Cueto in the pits. This race is done. And who is that? That's our leader, or our second place, Philip Vanderhoek. I think he's actually 3rd, but he's down to P9 at the moment now. So it's a shame to see what happened to him there.
I think some drivers have also gone off in the background at the hairpin. But once again, Philip making another mistake. I don't know what's happened to him in recent races, but just has not been on it at all. But here's a look at what happened in that final chicane. It was absolute chaos. Everyone mucking up their braking, everyone spinning, everyone just getting it wrong. And Oliveira probably should have held his brakes. That's rolling back onto the track like that is it's just not what you want to see ever. You'd hope that people would pay attention to their relative a little bit more. But I think Iani has made a tiny mistake up ahead. He's lost a bit of time. Yeah, but getting, like I said at the start of this race, it's just attrition in these races now. This car obviously being not very good to drive this season at all. People still struggling with it, understandably, of course. And yeah, these races are more about just keeping it on track more than anything else. As the limit for these cars is it's a very narrow window, and if you push outside of that window, you're going to end up in the grass or into another person's car.
Yeah, well, we just mentioned Felix Samoa's terrible start and how he didn't get those tires flipped on in time, but he just ran purple and was 2/10 faster than our leader, Philip Spencer, so I think he got those tires turned on at this moment. The gap is 2.7 to the leader, but I think he'll be closing in on our P3 Andreas Friedrich here pretty soon.
Yeah, Friedrich, again, just kept it clean. He's not really been too much on the attacking. There's just been rather chill for these first few laps of this race, and is up in 3rd. So, like I said, keep it on the track, and you might end up getting a podium. I think it was either last week or the week before, where had you just kept it on the track, you would have gotten P2, I think it was, with everyone making plenty of mistakes in this car. And, you know, if you have driven this car this season, you will understand why this thing is not too good of a drive on traction, especially, and under braking. It just feels strange. It doesn't feel natural, and of course, applied with the already very understeery nature of this car, it makes for quite quite a questionable driving experience. But of course, these guys, nevertheless, still going wheel to wheel at it every single week. And of course, we love to see it. Are we going to see a side-by-side overtake into 130? Oh, this is a bold move, I think, Jordan. Oh, I was going to say he was going to hold back and then ran into the back of Vianney. So, yeah, I mean, eat my words before I even said them. And don't know how Jordan will feel about that, but Vianney's not going to be happy at all. Just a bit too close for comfort there at 130R. And, yeah, well, we know how difficult it is to overtake through there. But, yeah. It's just not an ideal overtaking opportunity. Probably should have given it a little bit more caution. But, hey, that's the nature of racing. But, Giancarlo, I mean, you fought for victory many a time, as I believe Hook's gone off into Time 1 again. I saw a puff of smoke in the background. He's having a horrible time. But, Giancarlo, if you're a second or two behind the leader, what's your game plan overall?
Yeah, this is a short race. These races are only 12 laps here tonight. It's about, 2 minutes a lap. Very, very short races. So you don't have much time to think about strategy or, wait for an opportunity. So you have to be 100% almost the entire race. But these being downforce cars, part of that, the negative of that is, you have dirty air, and that does come into play. And I think we're seeing that with some of our drivers here tonight. I think some of these incidents, some of these drivers are coming in as they were in qualifying, where they had no dirty air. And with the dirty air and with the draft, they're making some slight errors, and that's what's causing all the incidents that we're having so far tonight.
Yeah, and you can't even say that it's down to experience, as we've seen plenty of experienced drivers today make mistakes, and I mean it is something with this car. Last season and the season before, we had very few mistakes in this car. It was always close, and the top drivers were on it. And this season, it's just switched, and we're seeing drivers like Van den Hoek making those crucial mistakes, especially in recent times. Just not been on it at all. But then you have other drivers making the best of it, like Spencer, who we don't often see near the top. We do see it occasionally, but it's not week after week. And, he's leading fairly comfortably right now. But we've got a man that we don't really see often at all. Mario Cuesta in second place, who's piling the pressure on. He's getting back into that slipstream. And you can see him just weaving a little bit there to try and get out the dirty air as best as he can. But like you say, Felix Samara's setting purple lap times, and I say that, I believe he just made a big boo-boo into turn 1. He's lost about half a second there. So, yeah, pushing the car a little bit too much, but like you say, you have to be 100% all the time. But in this car, I don't think you can.
Yeah, I think part of the 100% comes, consistency and finding the limit and staying just below that, because in this car, 1 inch or 1 step over the limit, and just like that, your race can be over. So I think it's important to find the limit, and then from there, dial it back and just stay right around that area. Because as you've seen so far, Phil Spencer hasn't been the quickest driver any of the laps so far, but he's been consistent, and that's what's kept him in the lead so far in this race. So I think the biggest thing with this car is just consistency, hitting your marks lap by lap, and, adjusting to the fuel load, because as you see, these drivers will go faster and faster throughout this race as the fuel load burns off. So adjusting to that as well, and the car bounce as a whole, I think that's the key to winning this race.
It is, and yeah, I got to agree with you. It's been consistency throughout this season, which has won people many a race. We've seen some surprise winners throughout this season. We've not had the usual suspects up there all the time, which is actually kind of surprising. And yeah, I think changing the tyre model for next season is probably the best idea that iRacing can have, if they decide to improve this car, which I think the people in the radical discords and forums are going to be screaming for. Do I blame them? No, not at all. This does really need updates as soon as possible. But like you say, consistency. I mean, even though this car has its faults, it does bring out different aspects in different drivers. We're seeing the experienced drivers make mistakes, so experience isn't everything as well. You've got to take in other factors, and it gives some lower down drivers the chance to shine. And I kind of feel like that's a bit beautiful as we see Van den Hoek make yet another mistake. And Giancarlo, I mean, that's the first mistake we've seen on board. What did that look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like every other lap that we've seen so far from these drivers, and just a mile an hour or a kilometer an hour just over the limit, and just like that, the car comes around. He did a great job of saving that, as that wreck could have been much, much worse. But as you talked about, I think part of the racing that we're seeing in these cars is, as we know how accident prone they are, as we see Friedrich goes off hard in the wall there. That might be his race done. That's going to be a lot of damage for that car, I believe. The front left might be taken off as well. So I think that'll be, that's race done for him. But like you said, with the flaws of this car, I think it brings out, even more of the skill of these drivers. I think it's part of it is the pace you have, but part of it is also being able to manage this car for 12 laps at a time. And like you said, getting these lower iRating drivers that are in here, a possibility to do well just because of just the consistency and keeping on the track.
Yeah, and even though Frederick had a chance to prove that, just a tiny bit of understeer and ended up into the wall. And that's what I was talking about during qualifying. Excuse me, is there's Quest going on the grass in 130R. That's not the ideal line at all. You can tell how hard he's pushing. But yeah, like Frederick, if you do make a mistake on this track, it is very, very punishing. It's a fairly narrow-ish track. It's kind of in between, but there's not much runoff around here. You've got a bit at turn 1 and a bit at Spoon, and that's about it. There's and I guess there's a bit of 130R that might save you, but yeah, this track is very old school and very punishing in that way. And I guess that's why it's so beloved. It offers a different challenge that not many other tracks can give. And I mean, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the track, and I know I've just insulted every single sim racer and racing driver out there. But for me, I don't know. I like challenging circuits. I mean, hey, I love street circuits. I like Long Beach. I like Monaco. But I don't like this. I don't know. There's just something about Suzuka that's just not for me. I get why people like it. I do. It's a really good track. And oh dear, there's Questa nearly bottling it, getting too hard on that curve on the exit of Degnal 1, but manages to keep it on. And like you said, Giancarlo, even though Spencer's not really been quick, he's just not made any mistakes and is winning this race.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm not the biggest fan of this track either, but I think part of it is the high-speed nature, as we have a driver slow there. I'm not sure who that was, but with the high-speed nature of this track comes, I think when you make a mistake, it's amplified that much more due to the speed you're doing on this track. Any mistake here, as listen, we have Brandt off, he's down to P13, but any mistake here, it's a lot more costly because of the high speed you're going, whereas, a slower track, a single point, something like that, or Brand's Hatch, typically the mistakes are reduced and the speeds are lower, so you have a little bit more time to catch the mistakes. Opposed to this track, where you make a mistake and just like that, your race is over, as we've seen from Friedrich before.
Yeah, it's very unique, you could say, in that sense. But I mean, even though we're talking about Spencer being consistent, I think he does need to pick up the pace just a tiny bit, because even with that mistake last lap, it cost him up 8/10 again. So I think Spencer might have made a mistake of his own somewhere. He lost about 6/10 on that last lap. I'm trying to see what sector it was he lost the most time in. Not really seeing anything too obvious as of now, but nevertheless, yeah, Spencer. I mean, this track in terms of defending, I think it's fairly easy because of the nature of it. But like you said, because of a lot of it is fairly high speed. I mean, if you try and defend the inside of 130R, you're at risk of pinching yourself on the inside. Same with Spoon, and same with turn 1 as well. And, I mean, in a situation, Giancarlo, when you're in front on this track, what's the game plan in terms of keeping your position?
Yeah, I think as long as you just drive your line and race just like you were, leading up to that point, there's not much passing opportunity with this track, truly. I mean, you have into 130R with the slipstream, which is, a really risky move. So many drivers won't take the opportunity. And then other than that, I mean, there's not many places to pass in these cars, especially with the high downforce nature of these cars. The dirty air is absolutely horrendous to be in. And throughout the S's, it's easy to lose a 10, 2, or even 3 through the S's just because of the dirty air. So it's hard to make moves here. And I think that's part of why some drivers love the track and part of why some drivers hate the track, because if you're following a car here, it can get so frustrating just following the same piece of machinery lap after lap after lap, and there's really just nothing you can do about it, as you know, most of the long straights leading to high speed corners, and those are risky moves that not everyone wants to take.
Yeah, it's always been a struggle for me in terms of overtaking around this track. I've never really been able to put it together. As like you say, into turn one, you know, got a good slipstream opportunity, but you just don't have the corner to be able to go for an overtake. But here's Jordan going for an absolutely fantastic move on, I believe this is Yanakis for 5th place. Yanakis is still fighting this one though. He's going to be on the outside for this first S. Is Jordan going to be able to cut him off? He does. That was a really good overtake from the Spaniard. That was absolutely beautiful round the outside of turn one. Kind of reminds me of Raikkonen and Fisichella about 20 odd years ago. No, that was a really ballsy move. He's put himself up another place, and we're going to see a nice little replay, and I think this one deserves a replay, as you can see Yanakis there defending the inside very, very heavily, but like I said, it can pinch you on the inside and allow the outside car to just gain that more speed. Jordan's very lucky his car didn't completely understeer off the track, managed to keep it round the outside, and then has the inside line for this first S, and then just shuts the door on him and gains the place. That was a very, very good overtake from Jordan, and he should be very, very proud of himself. But unfortunately, that's probably the last overtake he's going to do today, is he's got another 4-5 seconds to the car ahead.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant overtake there from Jordan, but that's the kind of overtakes it takes at the track like this to, you know, make it happen. You know, like we said, it's really hard to overtake here, and without those kind of moves, there would be no overtaking, honestly. So, really good from Jordan there. Happy to see somebody, you know, somebody had the courage to do it. So that's great from him there. But yeah, I mean, with these cars, I think it provides a lot of, you know, good racing just because of the nature of them. And like you said, it's a difficult car to drive and a difficult car to master, but I think if you can master it and stay consistent, then you'll prosper a lot from it. And I think this car, not the best training tool, as you'll get very frustrated trying to learn how to drive in this car, but I think if you can get down this car, you can drive a lot of cars pretty darn well.
Yeah, definitely is. There's Yanakis trying to gain back the 5th place that he lost a lap ago. Is literally, I mean, they sort of were trying to form. Yeah, they were trying to seize together to create a radical SR20 there. That's not the ideal situation, but Yanakis rather barging Jordan out the way and gain back the place. Let's see how Jordan is able to respond over the next lap or two. He's not got long left to make an overtake. I mean, I said that would be the last overtake he'd made, and clearly I was wrong. He's going to have to do it again at some point, as this is relatively the closest battle that we have on track. As the battle for the lead, still I think it's Spencer's to lose. As hello, are we going to see an attack into the hairpin? It's going to be bold. There's contact, and Jordan is shoving it up the inside. There was contact in turn one, and now there's contact down at the hairpin. I think that was a little bit of revenge from Jordan. And now Yanakis, is he going to attack into Spoon? As he is right up the diffuser of Jordan. He's going to try the outside at Spoon. Is he going to brake earlier? It looks like he is. He's going to maybe try to get the cutback. Jordan goes a tiny bit wide, and Yanakis is going to have the slipstream down to 130R. And I think this could end in tears, Giancarlo. I think this is getting a little bit too heated for my liking.
I would have to agree. These two drivers are getting quite feisty, but they are putting a great show from us as Yanakis goes around the outside, but he's held off by Jordan there. We'll see if he goes for moving to the hairpin. I think he's a little too far back this time by, but we'll see if he can get anything down into turn one. They've gone 2 for 2 so far into turn one. Let's see if they go 3 for 3, as Yanakis has quite the gap to mount to see if he can get by Jordan here. But let's not forget, Jordan came from down in P14 on the grid, so this is nonetheless a great drive from him to P5. Whether or not he holds his place from Yanakis is yet to be seen, but nonetheless a great drive from Jordan so far.
Yeah, we know.
Oh, just like that.
And that's your first commentator curse on Apex Racing TV. There's your first one. Treasure it. It will be there forever. Trust me. The first one is horrible. I did that to, I think it was Woodward, or it might have been Spencer actually. Brands Hatch earlier on this season or last season. And yeah, that was probably the worst thing I've ever done. I literally was saying that he's put on a really good race, and boom, he spins 5 seconds later. So there you go. There's your first comment on it, Curse. You know, treat it with respect. I'd hang it. I'd hang it up on a wall, to be honest. And there's a car around the hairpin. That's the number 14 of Victor Cuoto in last place. He's not had a very good day, and is he gonna come back on the track? I don't know. He's just gonna sit there and enjoy the view, I guess. As we're on the penultimate lap, we've only got 1.5 laps to go. We've got a heated little battle commencing for first place. Samoas, who had an awful start, has sneakily managed to catch up to these two. And Giancarlo, who's your money on?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really mentioned Felix since the start of the race, but he's quietly stuck his way up into this lead pack. But truthfully, I think Phil Spencer has his win locked down. He's been super consistent the entire time. I'm fingers crossed I don't jinx him here, because I really think he has this in the bag. But Felix Samoas has done a great job to catch back up to these guys. Been really consistent throughout the race, and I'm happy to see him to P3. We'll see if he can make a move on Cuesta or Spencer for the win.
Yeah, I think Samoa's game plan here is just going to be wait for these guys to attack each other and then pounce, as having a three-way battle isn't ideal, especially around a track like this. And Spencer has gone very, very wide into turn one. It's going to get Cuesta a little bit riled up, but not quite there yet. As in the S's, there's not really an overtaking opportunity, and Cuesta just has to force himself to sit back and not lunge up the inside. As it is white flag, this is going to be the last lap. This is going to be the last opportunity for whoever these top three drivers is going to win this race. I don't really know. I mean, I might agree with you, Giancarlo. I'm going to say Spencer has got this one in the bag, as track position is really, really important around here. And it's also not very easy to overtake, especially through that this middle sector. And they're coming up to some lap traffic now. Is this going to throw a spanner in the works as we come up to the hairpin? And Cuesta seems to be a little bit light on the brakes. And look at this. Our top three separated by 0.6 of a second. This is the kind of end to a race that we want. And I think it's going to be a battle for P2 more than a battle for P1. As Spencer is actually gaining on that lapped car ahead with that slipstream. So he's also going to be in the dirty air here, which, as you can see, is losing him a fair amount of time. And obviously Samoa's is going to be in the worst dirty air, all of these drivers, but this is going to be their last opportunity as we come down this back straight as we head into 130R. The gaps are coming down, but can Cuesta get up to the back of Spencer enough to go for a lunge into the last chicane? It's going to be a bold move if he's going to do it. He's a little bit later on the brakes than Spencer, but Spencer has the inside line just about covered round the final corner. He's probably going to win this race. He's now 7/10 ahead. The battle for P2 is also pretty much over. Your top three is as you are: Spencer, Cuesta, Samoas, and that was the last lap that we deserved. Blanco in 4th place, Yanakis in 5th, eventually winning out as Jordan made that mistake. Speaking of mistakes, Vanden Hoek has also made a fair amount today and is in 6th. Jordan, you know what could have been? He could have been P5 after a glorious drive. Iani, after that contact into 130R, he would have been hoping for better. And, wow, the rest of the grid is as you are. And, well, welcome to Radicals, Giancarlo.
Yeah, you really can't complain about that finish. I mean, that was a great drive from Spencer, Cuesta, and Samoa, despite the terrible start. So, great job to all of those guys. We have a battle for P11 here with Ellison and Brandt currently. As Ellison goes wide, I think that'll be that race done. Yeah, great job from those top three drivers. You know, we saw a lot of consistency between those guys, and we saw a lot of mistakes behind the guys behind them. So, great job to those three guys. And, you know, I think it really showed from Phil Spencer today. You don't have to be the fastest driver to win one of these races. You know, I think consistency is a big part of it. And I think he was the most consistent driver today, and that's why he won.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. And I think his pole also kind of played into his hands there as well, as he was just able to get a good start, led every lap, and kept it clean. And not really much to complain about apart from maybe a few mistakes here and there that made his life a little bit harder than it needed to be. But there is your last driver coming across the line. Javier down in 13th place, and well, number 13 finishing 13th. Kind of fitting, wouldn't you say? But Yeah, that was an interesting race from start to finish. Plenty of action, plenty of mistakes, plenty of overtakes. Welcome to Radical Racing Challenge here in 2023. And it's Philip Spencer who ends up winning this race here at Suzuka. Fairly well deserved, you got to say. Mario Cuesta as well put on a fantastic performance, I have to admit. Not really seen too much of him, but hopefully we see more of him in the coming weeks. Felix Samoa's good comeback after a pretty poor start. Rafael Blanco, mixed race from him, had a decent start, but probably wished that he was fighting up there for the top 3. Yanakis as well, having a decent race. He's up 1 place from where he started. Philip van den Hoek in 6th, not the way he wanted this race to go either. David Jordan, what could have been for him in 7th. Myron Iani in 8th, Caruso in 9th, Oliveira in 10th, and there's Elson, Brandt, Balestriaros, Hinkson, Caruso, and Frederick rounding out today's finishers. And well, Giancarlo, this is your second Apex Racing TV commentary, and I gotta ask, what's better, this or Weekend Warriors?
I have to say that Weekend Warriors' race was great this weekend, but I have to say these guys put on a show. So I think so far it's gonna be these guys take the cake so far.
Yeah, it was very chaotic from start to finish, and that's kind of what we expect every single week. Just lots of mayhem and a few overtakes here and there. And I don't believe we have anyone wanting to talk to us, as we so often don't in this series, as everyone kind of had a mixed bag of a race. I think the only driver that will be happy with his finishing position is going to be Philip Spencer, as Cuesta and Samoa would have hoped they would have won, but everyone else not really enjoying their time out there today. But yeah, Giancarlo, I mean, if you were to come back and do this series for yourself, where would you put yourself in these cars?
Well, I think personally for me, I think it's going to come with how much practice I put in, seeing these drivers and seeing how hard the car was to drive. I would probably spin myself, as I am a usual MX-5 driver. These are a little out of my league. But yeah, I think this is a great series that people don't, really think about. And I think the car is difficult to drive, which puts some people away. But I really think if people bought the car, put the practice in, put the laps in, and really got the grips of the car, I think it is a really fun car, and I think it is to be loved. I think it's a love-hate relationship with some drivers with this car, but as you've seen today, it provides for great racing. And I think if you can get to grips with the car, like Philip Spencer, like Mario Cuesta, like Felix Simones, I think it's a really, really good race.
Giancarlo's only been here for 2 broadcasts and he's already speaking facts. Well, yeah, it's a bit early, but yeah, he's telling. He's speaking facts though. I mean, yeah, this car's difficult to drive, but I do wish that we had a little bit more participation during these races. But nevertheless, we hope to see you guys next week, same time as always, at 10 o'clock BST every Friday. These Radicals are brought to you live from myself, Aaron Smith, Giancarlo Sculo, and Mark Tranata in the production booth. And we will see you all next week, hopefully. And we all hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you later.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.